We will call the January 16th meeting of the DeSoto County Board of Education to order. And the first order of business is the pledge of allegiance to the flag. And the young man leading us this morning is Mr. Brian Miranda. He's in the third grade at South Haven Intermediate School. Brian, if you would come forward and read the order.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job.
Great job.
Next item of business is to approve the agenda that you have before you this morning. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda that the board has before? Not your recommendation, Mr. Parker.
Mr. President, I recommend the board to approve the agenda.
All right, based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval of the agenda, do we have a motion to that effect?
I make that motion.
Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Nay, ayes have it, the agenda for this morning, January 16th, is approved for you. Next item of business is the superintendent's report. Mr. Arthur.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've got several items on the superintendent's report today. The first thing that I want to start out by touching on is what we've all been facing this week or seeing in the news also here in DeSoto County with the tornado that moved through this past Saturday morning and affected many people throughout our county, especially in the Hernando and Lewisburg areas. And we are going to be talking in just a minute about some of the damage that we faced with the schools. So I want to start out by, on behalf of the board, commending all the first responders and all those that worked tirelessly and are still working this weekend, and also those that worked all weekend, and not only people who live here in DeSoto County, but also from outside the county who came in to restore power to our citizens that lost power. And I know we have even several people here in the audience, I'm sure, that experienced the loss of power and even possibly damage to their homes. From a district standpoint, as soon as we saw that the weather was moving in, it was going to be a potential hazard. We didn't know, obviously, tornadoes, but we knew that we could face wind damage. Mr. Chase and Mr. White organized our maintenance crew from our district level to be ready to go out Saturday to check on all of our facilities. And so Saturday morning, as soon as the storms moved out, I was on the phone with Mr. Chase, and he and Mr. White and Mr. Hall were coordinating efforts, and everybody was getting out in schools to see what type of damage we have here. We asked our maintenance crew that was working all weekend, so we were able to go back to school Monday. If y'all could please stand at this time so we can recognize y'all. Great job. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes in those kinds of situations, and obviously the focus was on the citizens that faced the storm damage, but at the same time here with the schools, we had to make sure that our schools were operational, and that went all the way through Sunday. Our principals had to go out. I asked each of them to visit their school, even at all 42 campuses, not just in the Hernando and Lewisburg areas, because they had to make sure that they still have power throughout the weekend because the power outages, they were sporadic throughout the weekend. We had to make sure that all that was done. And so it was a very coordinated effort. And at this time, I'll ask Mr. Jerry White to please come forward and give you a brief presentation about storm damage with our campuses.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Good morning, everyone. We started out talking about, we had 5 schools that were damaged in some proportion because of the storm. We had 3 that was very minor, and we had 2 that was pretty major. Pleasant Hill Elementary, Center Hill Elementary, and Lewisburg Middle was the ones that had the least amount of damage. Of course, Lewisburg High and Olive Branch Elementary had the most damage. This is a picture that's a little bit north of the Lewisburg school where the team of the tornado went through. As Mr. Austin said, we met on Friday and got a plan together on how we were going to respond if we needed to respond. We had our place divided up into 2 different divisions. One was to assess, and the other one was to follow and bring what equipment was needed to the sites. And sure enough, on Saturday morning, somewhere between 4:30 and 5 o'clock, EF2 tornado attacking winds of 120 miles an hour hit the Lewisburg area. We started out, of course, we alerted all of our people, and people, our first crew that was going to go out and assess the damage. We were all on the road at 7 o'clock on Saturday morning. We had all the schools assessed by 10 o'clock, and we were the damage was by the end. Of course, we then put all of our attention to the Lewisburg and Olive Branch area at that point in time. Of course, as I said earlier, there's 3 schools with a minor damage in Pleasant Hill, Center Hill, and Lewisburg Middle. The 2 with the major was the high school, Lewisburg, and Olive Branch Elementary School. When we found this damage, we knew we were going to have insurance issues with it, and I'd like to take a moment before we get any further into this thing and recognize Miss Sarah Evans. She would you please stand up and say, we rolled her out of bed on Saturday morning and got her on site. So I just want to say thank you for your help. She was giving us advice on what we could and couldn't do and still be able to get our insurance money. So she was very valuable in this situation. Thank you very much for your help. And so after she got on site, we started, assessing everything and moving and trying to do what we could to get students forward to have students. To give you a little rundown on through the weekend of what happened. By 1 o'clock on Sunday, we had power restored in most all schools, including Lewisburg Primary, Lewisburg Elementary, and Lewisburg Elementary came back on. Lewisburg Middle came back on the line about 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon. But Lewisburg High School didn't come back online. So we were on site, and come to find out the main breaker was tripped, and we reset it, and power came back up. We still had no internet. So guess what? The HVAC units were all in unoccupied mode when the power went out, so we didn't have any heat. And unless we get the internet up, we can't heat the building. So by 1:30, we got the internet figured out what we needed to do, and got it reset and backed up, and we was able to check the power and the heating on the schools. So then by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we could verify that all campuses was okay for school on Monday morning. So we done that for us about 3 o'clock Sunday. I'll show you a little bit of the damages now that we had as far as starting out with Pleasant Hill Elementary. As I said, this was very minor. Just some awning stuff that was messed up a little bit here, which was nothing major at all. The same thing at Center Hill Elementary. We got some awnings that's messed up a little bit there. You can see them leaning. You can see on this next picture here where the post is buckled, and then of course all of this stuff will have to be replaced. Kind of tore loose from the building there a little bit, and all that had to be reset. And up under, you can see some of the panels all bent. Lewisburg Middle School, still minor there. We had a lost marquee sign there, but other than that, everything looks pretty good. At the high school, there's a little bit different story there. We pulled on campus there. We actually never got on the campus. John Hodges and I were in different trucks trying to get there. I think it was our 4th route before we could finally get through to the school because of all the lines and trees across the But when we finally got there, we started seeing what the damage was. As far as you can see this is a set of bleachers that was actually on the soccer field that's behind. You can see where it came from on the concrete pad right behind. Blew it into the baseball bullpen there and took out the fence on both sides of that deal. This is a set of bleachers that was behind the baseball field, and you can see it. We took poles and netting and everything, and just tore all of that up. And also knocked the fencing down, in front of the dugout. We checked the plans on those poles, and those poles are some 10 feet in the ground with concrete, so that's gonna be a challenge to get them out there. We've got a plan to do it, so, they were put in right, but they just couldn't hold up under the pressure. This is a scoreboard at the baseball field, and you see that it's leaning and posts that have to be, replaced on it. This is, down to, I believe this is a left field line of baseball, you see it took the fence out there. This is a building that was on campus that they used the football field to sell apparel and stuff out of, and it was pretty much destroyed it. You can't really well see on this picture here because of the lighting or whatever, but here's a tremendous amount of shingles is missing off of both concession stands. We've had to reroute both concession stands. This is the scoreboard here at the football field. And as you can see, all the advertisement panels and all are gone at this scoreboard. You can see on the left side of the scoreboard where it even took some of the brick, it was rocking the board so much it drove some of the brick away from the poles there. You can see the wooden structure behind the scoreboard where it was torn down also and torn up there. How the little band house do it, I'll never know. This is just some more pictures of the athletic fields here at Louisville. This refrigerator was sitting in the breezeway actually of the concession stand, and just got it and dumped it out in the yard. This is a picture of the baseball out of the softball field, which took very little damage. You see the scoreboard in the background back there, the panels missing off the right side of it. And down the right field line there, about 3 poles over the fence has been in some. It's just, I think just going to be replacing a couple of poles there, so correct that issue. Tennis courts took a pretty good lick, knocking down fences, took all of our windshields and either destroyed them or blew them flat away. We can't find them, so they're gone. This is the roof at Lewisburg High School, where you can see that the ridge cap and some of the flashing is destroyed there, and we've already got estimates to get this stuff fixed. I'm also a little bit concerned about the HVAC units there. We found, I think it's 9 units on this rooftop that where the pins are bending. It doesn't affect us on heating the buildings, but it will definitely affect us on cooling the buildings. So we're working with the insurance company on this. And I don't know, these units are almost 15 years old, and I don't know if we're gonna get, full replacement for them, or if they're just gonna replace the coils and the units and so on. But that's all in progress now that we're working with. Moving on to Olive Branch Elementary School, when we pulled on campus here, it was white side. This is the roof that was on the tornado shelter. It is destroyed. That's a membrane that's that holds the roof. It's between there and the concrete slab that's on the roof. On these storm shelters, they put a concrete slab just in case something like this happened, which we want everybody to know who uses these shelters. The shelter did what it was supposed to. It didn't tornado, even though it lost the roof. But if you get inside there, all we have done would be get a little wet, but it was very safe on the inside. We were taking on water tremendously hard here. We had to do something rapidly, or we were going to lose the floor and plus have other issues that we all know that water causes. And this is where Ms. Edmondson helped us out a lot here as far as telling us what we could and couldn't do. And of course, it was raining almost all day Saturday when we were doing this stuff. And so we had stuff thrown all over this campus. It was a mess. And you can see it got part of the awning out there also. This is what the campus looked like. And of course, there was 2 boards with nails and everything else in it. We had to move on this one if we were going to have school this month. by the end of the day Saturday, we had the roof removed and we had it topped. And so, we're still taking on water there when it rains, but it's very little. We're catching it in buckets and all now. We've had moisture tests done on the inside of the building, and it looks like we've saved the forward on the thing. So, main thing is we have got to move rapidly to get the roof on this thing before another wind comes through, because the tar top and we'll have to start all over again. So, that's where we are with this one. This is the main issue that we've got to address now. I want you to look at this is setting up on a hill. And look down behind it, there's a little shade on it that's sitting down in the playground. It's still there. The roof's gone off the building, but you know, it's just amazing how the wind does and some of the stuff. It just gets over some stuff and gets over stuff. I thought that was quite interesting. This is back to Lewisburg High School, and what you're seeing here in the middle of the screen is the actual tornado that was captured on one of our security cameras. And the top of it just whips around kind of like a road. You can see the bottom, the light is not real good here, but you can see the bottom on the right-hand side. It's on the ground, and I mean, it's just wreaking havoc across there. And if this tornado had been 1,000 yards further to the east, this is kind of what our campus probably would look like, because this is where the teeth of the storm was. We're right across the bottom, right behind the schools, and went up across Pratt Road, down up around Bethel. Down there, I mean, it's just a mess. But anyway, we were fortunate that we didn't have any more damage than we've got. We've been going before this board today and asking for some emergency relief so that we can prepare the building at Olive Branch and get the roof off the campuses, that's where we are now, and I'll be glad to try to answer any questions.
Great job.
Yeah,
Great job.
We just want to say thank you
Yeah.
for what y'all have done. I mean, it's been miraculous, the work that you have done, the progress that you've made.
Well, thank you very much. We were ready, and it's always, we always say it's always a team effort. We had, Mr. Austin said we had our meetings Friday, had our game plan, that game plan down, and everybody knew what their job was, and everybody was getting their job. So, thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And speaking of also coordinating with local officials, as our team was working on our facilities to see if we could go back to school, to see if we had any issues there, we were in touch with emergency management officials and with local law enforcement. And the factors that went into that were that we had to make sure that we could have a regular school day in terms of emergency management. You know, if an ambulance was needed on campus, or you know, whatever might be needed on a regular school day, if something, if an emergency were to occur, that we would still have that. So emergency management gave us the clear for that. But emergency management had also had indicated that several of the parents they had talked to that were affected were hoping that we would be back in school on Monday, because they wanted their children to get back to a regular routine. And also during the day, you know, the parents had work to do at home. They wanted their students to be able to their children to be able to go to school, get a warm lunch, you know, be at school during the day, and then give them the time to work during the day too. But then also we had to have clearance from local law enforcement to make sure the roads would be clear. And I had an opportunity myself to ride the roads out in Lewisburg and in the Love community, and it was tough. But the local law enforcement gave us the clearing, and they told us they would do some things to make sure that it was safe to travel that day. We did make some concessions, which you may have seen in the media, about excusing absences if students were affected. So board members, I want to give you a report on absences Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday in these areas. You'll see that on Monday, the first day we were back in school, we had a 94% overall attendance, which is consistent with a regular school day in DeSoto County. The Hernando zone was at 93, and the Lewisburg zone was at 87. And then by Tuesday, the overall was 94, Hernando was 94, Lewisburg was 93. And then yesterday, actually, Hernando Lewisburg had a higher percentage in the district on average. So even on Monday, we were very fortunate to be able to have that many students who could attend school on that day. And we were glad to see that those students were able to make it, and glad to see those students were able to get back in a regular routine. So now it seems like our students are back in school, and we're having regular school days each day. But we wanted to, y'all have a good report on that. And I want to thank once again Mr. White and his team for all that they did to make sure that we can have a regular school day. So, all right, Mr. White, we appreciate it. And if y'all need to go, I understand, because I know obviously y'all got a lot of work to do.
I think we're gonna hang from the attorney's report and then we go.
Also, I've got two student matters for executive session, if I could have those added for later on today. And we have got two outstanding groups with us here today. We have a student group and a teacher group. And to start out with, I would like to ask Dr. Jerry Float to please come forward to introduce our coaches, sponsors, and then we'll be introducing our student athletes.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. First, I'd like to say that we're very proud of these young ladies. They put in a lot of time and effort. They practice very hard. They're among the hardest working athletes we have on our campus. But not only do they excel in competition, but they also excel in the classroom as well. So if y'all can give them a quick hand. I would like to introduce our two coaches. First, I'd like to welcome Ms. Casey Astor to come up, and then also Ms. Vicki Page. And Ms. Page is going to call each girl up to come get their certificate.
Just so everyone knows, we did win the MHSAA state championship for middle school for our game day division. So that's why we're being recognized. Kennedy Dennison. Landry Franks. Kelsey Fusell. Haley Gann. Vivian Herrera. Sadie Hoffman. Emerson Lambert. Mandy Perkins. Skylar Taylor. Reagan Tedder. Libby Womble. Greenlee Adams. Savannah Beach. Maddie Calvert. Mia Craven. Natalie Davis. Elizabeth Herman. Mary Landon Hodge. Olivia Hood. Yahida Larma. Savannah Millett. Jordan Malone. Renaya Mays. Layla Moore. Rachel Kingston. Perry Robertson. Grayson Rousey. And Alyssa Thorns.
state champion Hernando Middle School cheerleaders. I'd like to get a brief picture, if y'all could turn around. I know y'all posed for pictures of state championships. We can figure out a way to get them all in one group, that'd be good. Great job. And now we have got a group of teachers with us here today, our Teacher Advisory Council members. And I want to start out by thanking them for serving on our Teacher Advisory Council for the last year. Since last February, they've been serving in this capacity. We've had meetings along the way. And the reason that we have this is so all of us as board members and superintendent, we can get input from our teachers throughout the school year so we know their needs. They were actually meeting today to design a proposed school calendar for next school year for the 2020-2021 school year. And then I will ask the board for approval of that calendar at our February board meeting. But I want to thank them for their service. And at this time, we want to introduce each of the members of the Teacher Advisory Council so they can be recognized.
So first we have Dana Cashin, DeSoto County Career and Technology Center East. Ricky Smith, DeSoto County Career and Technology Center West.
Congratulations.
Brittany K. Scruggs, Center Hill Elementary. Sissy Johnson, Center Hill High School. James Andrew Barham, Center Hill Middle School. Courtney Gilbreth, Chickasaw Elementary School. Natalie Clayton, DeSoto County Alternative Center. Amanda McMurphy, DeSoto Central Elementary School. Leslie Pleasance, DeSoto Central High School. Lisa Purvis, DeSoto Central Middle School. Amy Bridgewater, DeSoto Central Primary School. Sonia Sullivan, Greenbrook Elementary School. Meg Leffler, Hernando Elementary School. Angie Riley, Hernando High School. Elena Weiss, Hernando Hills Elementary School. Jonathan Newsom, Hernando Middle School. Ashley Land, Hope Sullivan Elementary School. Brandy Mowry, Horn Lake Elementary School. Cole Bostic, Horn Lake High School. Peyton Arnold, Horn Lake Intermediate School. Laura Linneman, Horn Lake Middle School. Mary Catherine Latham, Lake Cormorant Elementary School. Lieutenant Colonel Greg M. Johnston, Lake Cormorant High School. Kier Brown, Lake Cormorant Middle School. Laurie Poppenheimer, Lewisburg Elementary School. Amy Kuntz, Lewisburg High School. Rebecca Newton, Lewisburg Middle School. Melissa Thompson, Lewisburg Primary School. Kelly Edwards, Oak Grove Central Elementary School. Laura Ford, Olive Branch Elementary School. Meredith Talley, Olive Branch High School. Jerica Barnes, Olive Branch Intermediate School. Tracy Blake, Olive Branch Middle School. Rachel Derrick, Over Park Elementary School. Susan Powell, Pleasant Hill Elementary School. Morgan Massa, Shadow Oaks Elementary School. Candace Wood, South Haven Elementary School. Ashley Knotts, South Haven High School. Crystal Jones, South Haven Elementary School. Irma Lowry, South Haven Middle School. Melissa Hall, Rawls Elementary School.
Once again, I want to thank our teacher advisory council members for all of your service this year. And I want to congratulate the Hernando Middle School cheerleaders. And I want to thank the parents who are here in attendance supporting our cheerleaders today too. It was a team effort there. And so I know we're all proud of what you've accomplished. We are about to move on with the rest of our business for the board meeting. So if you would like to exit, now would be the time to do that. Thank you. All right, at this time, I would like to begin the teacher spotlight portion of our school board meeting. We have asked Ms. Jennifer Strickland, principal of South Haven Intermediate School, to come this evening to come this morning to introduce the program.
Thank you, Mr. Josephine, and board members for having us today. Today I'd like to spotlight our EL department at South Haven Intermediate School. We, in preparing for the 18-19 school year, we looked at our EL department to see how we could increase services for our EL students. And so that school year, we looked at providing every student at least 30 minutes a day with the EL teacher. And then also we created an after-school program for those students. Looking at MAP data and ELPT data, we saw significant gains. And so we wanted to capitalize on those gains for the 19-20 school year. So we created a master schedule where students were pulled out of the gen ed setting for at least 30 minutes to an hour a day, considering their level. Also, we implemented an assistant for the third grade EL teacher, and then also we increased our after-school program. And so according to Catch 21 and NWEA data, we're seeing some gains. So that is just a testament to the teachers that are in the department. I'd like to introduce Dr. Coleman. She's our third grade EL teacher. Ms. Bolaños is her assistant. We have Ms. Marks, fourth grade EL, and then Ms. Triplett is our fifth grade EL teacher. So at this time, Dr. Coleman, she's going to come up and introduce what we do for our EL department at South Haven Intermediate. Thank you.
Good morning, it's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for having us. As you can see, we are a team. We make an effort to work together and serve our students well. So this morning I have the pleasure of telling you a little bit about how we serve students and also highlighting some of our students. So you'll notice there are many pictures in our presentation, and those are our students and families at South Haven Intermediate School. Currently, we serve 130 students at SIS who are English learners. They represent a variety of home or native languages, and so our students are coming not only with the challenge of learning all of our academic content, but with learning the English language. So we have Spanish, multiple dialects of Arabic, Fulani, Yaquz, Russian, Tagalog, Vietnamese. We have a variety, diversity of languages amongst the students who we serve. Also, we emphasize reading, writing, speaking, and listening instruction in English. And so one of the big questions is, how do students qualify for services with an EL teacher? And as students enter the district, they're taking the home language survey, their parents are completing that. If the survey indicates that they have a language other than English spoken in their home or spoken by the student, we're allowed to screen them. And through our screening process, we identify students that are not proficient or approaching proficiency in English, or students who are actually already proficient in English. If they are proficient, we don't serve them. But if they're not or approaching proficiency, we do serve students. And so one of the common understandings we have in the department is students are at varying levels of their English language development. They're not all newcomers. They're not all brand new to the country. They are students who have been here, for example, for a while. But they're at very different levels, perhaps, as they're developing or acquiring English. And so why is that important? When we think about English learners, and if we think about having more than one language at home, you make sense of the world through your first language. The language your mother spoke to you is the language you often see the world through. And so as our students are coming to school, they may be experiencing some disconnects at times in terms of how we use English to communicate our language expectations and our academic expectations. And so things like the structure of language, the vocabulary that we use, all of that guides how we see the world. And so I just have a small example of what our students might be thinking as they contribute to class or they participate, just in that blue dialogue box. They might be thinking to themselves, how do I say this? How do I express what it means to participate in my class? And obviously, as languages are tools to communicate and understand others, we really need to help them make that bridge, make that link, so they're fully participating in class. Among the 130 students we serve, 103 are considered current English learners, which means they're not yet at a proficiency level that would allow them to no longer receive services. But we also have 27 students who are being monitored, which means they've demonstrated that language proficiency, but sometimes when they leave our EL support, they still have questions, doubts, things that need to be supported and understood to get best out in math and ELA and science instruction. So we still support them also, but they don't meet with us as regularly as an active EL student. And so what makes us unique at SIS? A lot of what I've shared with you is what everyone does. But we have a project-based learning project happening around Hungary. I'll tell you a little bit about that in detail. We also use a program called Words Their Way, which is a developmental continuum for English language development and acquisition. We have an after-school program, a breakfast club, and one thing we've really incorporated this year is using explicit feedback. We'll talk about that, how we do that. And then also we provide some professional development for our gen ed teachers, so our reading, our math, our science, helping them to get the most out of their students each day. Now, that's a small list, huh? So our Project-based learning focus is on hunger. Hunger is a concept that many students can connect to, and if you're familiar with SIS, you know that we also have the Hunger to Hope program. I can't take any credit for that, Ms. Gardner is wonderful, but it's been a great opportunity to have our students connect to something local, but also something global. So with project-based learning, we try to create a shared experience that students can have both in the classroom and connect to the world outside. We also emphasize the use of authentic work products. So why am I writing today? And you'll notice you have a handout of the third grade students writing from August all the way until just last week. And these are both first drafts, and they show the tremendous growth that this student has demonstrated, experienced, gained for themselves. And so when we do writing as part of a project, we're really trying to emphasize something with purpose. So each of those writing samples start with a purpose statement. Why are we writing? What is our goal? And so when we use those authentic pieces of writing, students are motivated, they're interested, and they're also more willing to receive feedback. Through that process, we try to focus on academic vocabulary and also the content areas. So we've been talking about words related to hunger, as well as words such as identify, explore, define, that are academic content, academic vocabulary words. And as you can see, one of the connections here is making learning meaningful. And then we alternate in vocabulary instruction, phonics instruction. You can see a picture there of students working through some phonics strategies with sand, which they love. They absolutely love. It's that tactile, multi-sensory piece that gets them excited. It helps them remember. So we alternate those pieces into our project-based learning. Here's an example of something students put together. We've been talking about the text structure problem solution. And so as we did our hunger project, we also looked at problem solution. And our EL standard that we were working on, our English language development standard, was actually generating questions using WH words. So look at what they can do with just that standard. They have tremendous ideas about how we solve the problem, how we work towards understanding the solutions. They're truly an impressive group of students. This year, we began using a program called Words Their Way, which I mentioned is a research-based program that looks at the developmental continuum of English language spelling. And so if you think about as you come to a new language, you need to know the rules. You need to know how it works. And so this program takes students at their individual level and moves them through that continuum of developing spelling patterns, but also looking at the vocabulary, the morphology, the meaning connected to the words that they're learning. So it's a wonderful, robust program. It also has an assessment component so we can watch their growth over the course of the year. And as I said, it's individualized. And so I have some students starting at a very low level of CBC words, that consonant, vowel, consonant. And then I have other students working on derivations, which is exciting. So they're looking at how, again, the structure of words change to create meaning. So it really gives us an opportunity to meet students where they are. And as Ms. Strickland mentioned, we're doing an after-school tutoring program, which is going to be going 4 days a week, 1 hour a day. They get an extra opportunity for that Words Their Way practice. They're also getting some help with homework. One of the characteristics of our students is that when they leave us and go home, they may not have someone at home who speaks English who can help them with their homework, help them to understand the content, help them to make a real-life connection. So the after-school program is a support for them. We also have English learners that participate in Spotlight or receive special education services or are participating in another special program during the day. And so that group of students is able to come in before school and get their EL support so that they're not missing out on those other opportunities. It's actually very popular. If you came by at 7:55, you'd see a group of students excited and ready to learn. Pretty cool. And then finally, we also provide some professional development to our general education teachers. While we may see and serve them 30 minutes to an hour a day, they're spending the majority of their school day with someone else. And so making sure that each teacher has some skills and awareness of serving them is really important, and their needs, how their needs might look different than other students who are monolingual English speakers. And so this is an example of a video that I developed to help teachers think about their instruction, and particularly think about how students are listening to them. The majority of our learning happens through that auditory process of what are they hearing, how are they able to understand the instruction, understand the expectations. And you know, our probably will need sound, I just thought about this. I wanted to play this a minute or two of this for you, if it works. And actually, this is a professional development video made using my VR spot, which Human Streeter has a wonderful helping me understand how to use in support of our teachers. Unfortunately,
Mississippi. This is the first video in a series where I share some ideas about how to support English learners in the mainstream math and ELA, or even the science classroom. This video will cover a variety of topics, rather the series will cover a variety of topics, and help you think about how to get the highest level of engagement from your ELs during core instruction. And so here are 3 strategies you might consider incorporating into your practice to help improve listening during core instruction. The first is explicitly pre-teaching vocabulary or concepts. The second is using a call and response protocol so that students can show if they really understand what you're saying or not. And that's a little different from, are you ready to work, or other call and response protocols that just affirm students and give them a positive way of thinking. This one's about listening. And then finally, you might decide to use or post key questions that are about listening and could be a part of a daily routine or an exit ticket to show that students really are listening to instruction and understanding what to do.
and so that's just a small snippet to give you an idea of how we try to take the strategies and the skills that we emphasize in our English learner classes and make sure that gen ed teachers have access to them too, so that they're successful and students are successful in all of their content. Another area that we emphasize and that our EL departments here at the district offices has helped us to study, understand, and use at SIS is the idea of giving explicit corrective feedback. So if you think about instruction and feedback, they go hand in hand. We want students to try something, get feedback, try it again, and improve it. But if you're an English learner, it may be overwhelming to get too much feedback or to get too broad of feedback. And so what we try to do instead is be very explicit and only choose 1 to 2 areas. And again, I refer to that writing sample. The student who improved their writing over the course of 4 months tremendously is a beneficiary of that explicit corrective feedback. So again, it's a cycle of trying something, modeling something, giving feedback, but making sure that feedback is targeted, very, very specific, so they have a chance to practice it and improve it. And so, I'll leave you with this final thought. Good things are happening at SIS, especially in our EL department with our students. Thank you for having us.
Great presentation. That was really good. And we appreciate all that y'all are doing at South Lake Intermediate School. Ms. Strickland, you're doing an outstanding job out there. Great leadership, and we appreciate all that you're providing. Thank you, Ms. Green. I know you're here to support them. Ms. Green, you're a great VL, so we want to thank you for all of your hard work. All right, at this time, and if y'all need to go, it's fine. If y'all want to stay, y'all are welcome to stay the whole time. Totally up to you. All right, at this time, I'll ask Mr. Freddie Joseph to please come forward. He's going to give us a brief update, safety and security updates after moving into safe.
Good morning. Like the board, we've had a very productive semester in the area of safety and security. So how have we got to this point? One thing that I do is I visit at least 2 schools a day, primarily in the morning and afternoon, not only to evaluate safety procedures, but also build connections with student staff, administration, and law enforcement. At the end of the school year, during administrative staff development, I held a session that covered emergency drills, daily safety procedures, safety assessments, and safety surveys. Also, facilitate the MCOPS grant with law enforcement agencies. This is a very intense application that takes a whole year to actually accomplish. So it's ongoing collaboration with the DeSoto County schools as well as the law enforcement agencies. We hosted active shooter training at South Haven Elementary School this past July. South Haven Police Department was over that particular event. The emergency management was involved as well, and it was great to see all these agencies come together and actually practice an event such as this. I'd like to say our law enforcement agencies are very supportive of the DeSoto County schools. We have a great relationship and a partnership with these agencies, and it's evident. 2 years ago, we had 15 full-time SROs in our county. And this year today, we have 30 full-time SROs in our county schools. We have 72% of our students that are actually covered. So I think that's a great accomplishment, and I want to thank Ms. Russellton and our board for helping to accomplish this goal. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Joseph?
Thank you for what you did.
Thank you.
He's doing an outstanding job, and touched on that at the end about the school resource officers. And I also want, as Mr. Joseph said, want to commend our board members for their commitment to something with that. Our district had, up until that point, it was just each municipality or the sheriff's department provided officers how many ever they could afford. And then we started giving $75,000 per municipality in the summer of 18, and then this past year we gave $150,000 per municipality for resource officers toward this school year. And so that, along with them finding ways to increase their officers along the way, we're in much better shape with our school resource officers around the schools. So I want to thank our board for that, and thank you, Mr. Joseph, for that report. Also, one last thing that I've included in your packet here at your chair was a update on the principal workshops that we've had this school year. This is something we talked about back in the fall, and I just want you to see what's already been completed and what we still have on the agenda. We've completed 8 of these workshops. We've got 2 remaining this spring. We've got 3 different groups. We had 4 sessions that we offered that were available to principals and assistant principals. Just anyone can sign up. Those were for our veteran principals and assistant principals. And then we've got our first and second year principals who meet as a group. They have got 3 meetings throughout the year. They've already met twice, and they'll meet one more time. We feel it's very important for them to meet together because all of them are facing those same challenges starting in their principal career. And that way we can have group discussions with them, and they can collaborate and also maybe connect and have a bond with another principal through that. And so that's worked really well for us. We've got really good feedback from our first and second year principals on that. This is the first year that we've done that. This is also the first year that we've had sessions with our first year assistant principals. You'll see on there we've got 3 sessions with them. We've already completed 2, and then we've got 1 more this spring because they face unique challenges also. And so, as I said, this is the first year we've done it, but we want to have continuing staff development with them throughout the year. Along with the group sessions that we're having, we have 4 other sessions that have been offered. I did an organization session with our head principals, offered that to them, and then with the other groups, we've had a session on teacher evaluations, on special education, and also on test data, understanding that. So once again, we've gotten really good feedback so far. This is something that we want to continue to do in the future, but I want you to have a copy of that.
Any questions?
All right, thank you. And at 10:55, that concludes my superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item of business on the agenda is the attorney's report.
Yes, Mr. President, there are two things that I want to discuss with the board, one of which is a contract legal matter that we'll take up in executive session. But the other matter we need to take up in open session, and as you heard the report from Mr. White earlier, we have extensive damage to the facilities at both Olive Branch and Lewisburg. And as you know, typically when we do repair work or restoration work, we get it worked out. But unfortunately, we don't have time to do that, and our state law allows us to declare an emergency when we do not need to have the delay of having to bid the work out over a period of time. So in front of you is a resolution that your administration and I have worked on that describes specifically the work that would fall under the emergency declaration of statute. And some of the work will not. Some of the work can be spread out over time. But the roof work, obviously, up on the FEMA building at Olive Branch School, we can't wait around. We need to get that done. And also the baseball complex and some of the facilities at Lewisburg, we cannot wait to get that repaired just for no other reason. The safety and security issues, we cannot continue with our extracurricular activities at that school. So before you is that resolution, if you've had a chance to look at it, and your superintendent would then make a recommendation at this point.
Recommendation.
Mr. President, I recommend to the board that we adopt the resolution for emergency repairs.
You have a copy of the resolution for emergency repairs before you, based on the superintendent's recommendation to approve. Do we have a motion to that effect?
I make that motion.
Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved, and that's the resolution for emergency repairs.
In other words, the other matters I mentioned, the contract legal matter, we'll take up in executive session. Thank you very much.
You've looked at your agenda for today. You have a motion to approve the January 2nd, 2024 agenda for the board meeting. We have a motion to that effect.
Make that motion.
Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried, the agenda is approved. First item of business on the agenda is the consent agenda, and those are items A through F. Are there any changes to anything on the consent agenda? If not, your recommendation for approval.
Mr. President, I recommend the board to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, based on the superintendent's recommendation to approve the consent agenda, we have a motion to that effect.
I make a motion.
Motion, motion having been made and second having been made. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it, the agenda is approved. Okay, first item of business under new business is ruler, Wi-Fi equipment, Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir, bids were open on the 19th for the purchase of the Google Wi-Fi access points for the district. That 5 vendors to submit bids. It's my recommendation to accept the lowest and best bid from the logistics.
Based on Mr. Williams' explanation and recommendation, your recommendation,
Mr. President, I recommend to the board to approve the lowest and best bid from Logista for the Aruba Wi-Fi access points.
okay? Based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval, do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. Bids are approved as presented. Item B, classroom additions, DeSoto Central Middle School, Mr. Williams.
So bids were open on the 17th of December for construction of 8 additional classrooms at the DeSoto Central Middle School. We had 6 companies bid on the project, and it's my recommendation to accept the lowest and best bid from Murphy and Sons.
Based on Mr. Williams' presentation of classroom additions to DeSoto Central Middle School, recommendation. Mr. Austin.
Mr. President, I recommend the board to approve the bid from Murphy and Sons, the lowest and best bid for the classroom additions at DeSoto Central Middle School.
Okay, based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval, do we have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it, the motion is approved. Item C, contractual agreement, Murphy and Sons, DeSoto Central Middle School. Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir, we're requesting permission from the board to enter into a contractual agreement with Murphy and Sons for the classroom additions at DeSoto Central Middle School.
Okay, based on Mr. Williams' recommendation for contractual agreement with Murphy and Sons, the recommendation, Mr. Austin.
Mr. President, I recommend for the board to approve the district entering into a contractual agreement with Murphy and Sons for the classroom additions at DeSoto Central Middle School.
Okay, based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval, do we have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. Motion is approved. Item D, classroom additions, Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir, we opened bids for construction of 4 additional classrooms at Fernando Hills Elementary School. 10 companies bid on it. My recommendation to accept the lowest and the best bid for TDL contractors.
Okay, Mr. Williams' explanation. Item D, the recommendation, Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. President, I recommend to the board to approve the bid from TDL contractors for the classroom additions at Fernando Hills Elementary School.
Okay, based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval, do we have a motion to that effect?
I'll make the motion.
Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. Classroom additions are approved as presented. Next item of business, contractual agreement, TDL contractors. Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir, we're requesting permission from the board to enter into a contractual agreement with TDL contractors for the additions at Fernando Hills Elementary School.
Okay. Based on Mr. Williams' recommendation, your recommendation for approval, Mr. Thomas.
Mr. President, I recommend the board to approve the district entering into a contractual agreement with TDL contractors for the classroom additions at Fernando Hills Elementary School.
Okay, based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval, do we have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Motion, having been made, Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. Motion is approved. Next item of business, Mr. Williams.
And so we opened bids on the 17th for construction of 8 additional classrooms at Fernando Middle School. And it's my recommendation to accept the lowest and best bid from Murphy and Son.
Based on Mr. Williams' explanation, your recommendation, Mr. Austin.
Mr. President, I recommend to the board to enter into to accept the bid for the classroom additions at Fernando Middle School.
Based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval, do we have a motion to that effect?
Make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it, the motion is approved. Next item of business. Is it F or G? G, okay. My fault, so. Item G, contractual agreement, Murphy and Sons, Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir, we're just asking permission to enter into a contractual agreement with Murphy's and Sons for the construction of those 8 additional classrooms at Fernando Middle School.
Okay, based on Mr. Williams' explanation, the recommendation, Mr. Austin.
Mr. President, I recommend the board to approve the district entering into a contractual agreement with Murphy and Sons for the classroom additions at Fernando Middle School.
Based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval, do we have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Motion having been made, do we have a second? Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. Contract agreement is approved. Next item of business, number 8, internet access wide area network. Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir, bids were open on the 18th for the purchase of internet mitigation services for the 2021 school year. This basically provides protections for our servers and our networks. It's my recommendation to accept the lowest and best bid from Telepac Networks / C-SPAC.
Telepac. Based on Mr. Williams' explanation, your recommendation, Mr. Austin.
Mr. President, I recommend to the board to approve the bids from Telepac Networks, C-Spire, for internet mitigation services for Southern School.
Based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval, do we have a motion to that effect?
Make that motion.
Motion having been made, do we have a second? Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye? Aye. Nay? Ayes have it. Contract is approved. Next item of business, Mr. Williams.
So we're requesting permission from the board to enter into a contractual agreement with C-Spire Business Solutions.
Okay. Based on Mr. Williams' explanation, your recommendation, Mr.
Mr. President, I recommend the board to enter into a contractual agreement with Telepac Networks and C-Spire Business Solutions.
Okay, based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval, do we have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. Contract is approved. Next item of business, J, emergency purchase plant maintenance.
Yes, sir. During the Christmas break, the plant department was contacted concerning the potential issue that attached the building at Olive Branch Intermediate School. In an attempt to get the project completed before the students return, the services were rendered and the project was completed. We're asking the board to declare this project an emergency purchase due to the necessary time frame associated with the completion of the project.
Based on Mr. Williams' explanation of the emergency purchase,
Mr. President, I recommend the board to approve the purchase of plant maintenance for all range locations.
Okay. Based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval, do we have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nay. Ayes have it. The emergency purchase is approved. Okay. Fifth, permission to construct the baseball backstop. Mr. Williams.
There's a Lake Form baseball booster requesting permission to construct a backstop of padding in the current baseball field. Booster will absorb all the costs associated with the construction of the backstop. The project will be donated to the district upon completion. There are specs in your packet if you need to review.
Based on Mr. Williams' explanation and recommendation, your recommendation, Mr. Lawson.
Mr. President, I recommend the board to approve the construction of a baseball backstop at Lake Point High School.
Based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval, do we have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Motion having been made, do we have a second? Motion and second having been made, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nay. Ayes have it. Permission to, construct baseball backstop is approved. Okay. Ms. Gray, do we have any money? Okay, all right, okay.
That's good.
November is a very good month, very good report. Our general fund revenues received, so far for the end of November, $82,763,147. If we compare that to last year, which is 33% of the total projected budgeted revenues. If we compare that to last year, it's $78,147,970. Now we're up 6%. Most of that for general funds is going to be your ad valorem and MAP. So we're very excited about that. All funds received were at $100,845,798, which is 39% of our projected budgeted revenues. If you compare that to last year at $91,058,779, we're up 11%. So, of course, general funds is going to make up a good portion of that. But one of the other main differences is, in the past, at this point, we are typically carrying some multi-million-dollar balances for special education, things like that. The State Department changed how they approve their projects, so we're not having to float federal spend as we have in the past. So that's just another part of the increase of 11%. So we're thrilled about that. Our general fund revenue expenditures so far are at $92,562,491 compared to last year, $86,288,998. We're up 7%, but that's fully expected and a little bit under what we expected at this point for budget. So that's wonderful. All fund expenditures are $118,312,080, which is 31% of our projected expenditures budgeted. So we're at 36% for general funds. Typically about this time of year, we run about 38%, which doesn't sound like a lot. 2% doesn't sound like that much of a difference, but it's over $5 million for us for our size budget. So very good report for our revenues and expenditures.
Thank you for the recommendation. Based on Ms. Gray's presentation, revenue and expenditures, your recommendation, Mr. Lawson.
Mr. President, I recommend the board to approve the statement of revenue and expenditures for November 2019.
Okay, based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval, do we have a motion to that effect?
Make a motion to approve the statement of recommended expenditures.
Okay. Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nay. Ayes have it. Statement of revenue and expenditures is approved. Statement of cash flow, Ms. Graves.
Okay, our current cash balance for our district maintenance account at the end of November is $75,618,688. Of that, of the Smith Shona invested balance is at $27,603,360. Our all funds cash balance at this point is $103,947,570, which, our district maintenance account makes up about 73% of that.
Well, market closed over 29,000, that's the place that should be making money. Are you pleased with it?
Very good.
Right, that sounds good.
Wouldn't change it.
Okay. All right, based on Ms. Graves' explanation of revenue and expenditures for recommendation,
The, statement of cash flow.
cash flow.
Okay, everybody, I'll make sure I was on the right one.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah,
Mr. President, I recommend the board to approve the statement of cash flow for November 2019.
okay. Based on the superintendent's recommendation to approve the statement of cash flow, do we have a motion to that effect?
Make a motion to approve the statement of cash flow.
Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay, ayes have it, statement of cash flow is approved. Presented. Next item of business, Ms. Graves, combined balance sheet.
The fund balance for all general funds, for November is $81,962,926. All funds fund balance are at $156,584,078, which that, of course, includes the certificates of participation. So typically, your district maintenance is a bigger portion of all funds, but we do have the 50-something million in our COPs. So if you compare the general funds to last year, $77,449,118, we are up 6% over last year, which is fabulous. And the reasons for that are exactly what I stated in the revenue and expenditure report.
Based on Ms. Graves' explanation of the combined balance sheet, your recommendation, Mr. Austin.
Mr. President, I recommend the board to approve the combined balance sheet for November 2019.
Okay, based on Mr. Austin's recommendation to approve the combined balance sheet, do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second having been made, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay, ayes have it, statement of combined balance sheet is approved. Okay, good. Next item of business on the agenda, item O, revised board policy BBE. Ms. Weeks.
Yes, sir, we're requesting a revision to board policy BBE. We are recommending to add the statement, all relationships shall comply with Mississippi rules for professional conduct.
Questions, comments of Ms. Weeks on that explanation for revised board policy BBE? Not your recommendation for approval, Mr. Costa.
Mr. President, I recommend the board to approve the revised board policy BBE for school board training.
Okay, based on superintendent's recommendation for approval of revised board policy BBE, do we have a motion to that effect?
Make the motion.
We have a motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay, ayes have it. Revised board policy BBE is approved. Revised board policy BCAC, special meeting of the board. Ms. Weeks.
Yes, sir, we're requesting a revision to this policy to remove the section of teleconferencing or video meeting because it is repeated in other policies.
Okay. Questions, comments of Ms. Weeks on that? Anything on that? Consent board policy meetings, special meetings. All right? Thank you very much, Ms. Weeks, for that explanation. Based on Ms. Weeks' explanation, do we have a recommendation, Mr. Austin?
Mr. President, I recommend the board to approve the revised board policy BCAC for special meetings of the board.
Okay, based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval, do we have a motion to that effect? Motion having been made, do we have a second? Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Nay, ayes have it, the revised board policy BCAC special meeting of the board is approved. Next item of business, revised board policy BCAD, teleconference of video board meetings. Ms. Weeks.
Yes, we are requesting a revision to this policy to remove the comments regarding audio visual recordings and the time frame that you're required to maintain those. Those guidelines have been changed in state statute.
Based on this week's explanation of revised board policy BCAD, the recommendation.
Mr. President, I recommend to the board to approve the revised board policy BCAD for teleconference of video board meetings.
Based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval, do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Nay, ayes have it, revised board policy BCAD is approved. Next item of business is revised board policy BCBA, time and place of board meetings. We're not moving on.
We are not.
Okay.
We just apparently were very careful to make sure we had included teleconference and our video meetings in multiple policies. So we are going to be removing that section from this policy as well, along with the penalties for missed board meetings and duties of the board president, because those are included in
I
other
was
areas.
just concerned, I thought y'all might be moving to somewhere else.
No, sir.
Okay. Based on this week's explanation of revised board policy BCAD, time and place of board meetings, the recommendation, Mr. Russell.
Mr. President, I recommend to the board to approve the revised board policy BCBA for time and place of board meetings.
Okay, based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval of revised board policy BCAC, do we have a motion to that effect?
Make that motion.
Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nay. Ayes have it, the board, revised board policy BCAD is approved. Next item of business is revised board policy JBCBBD, transfer of student from one school attendance center to another. Ms. Weeks.
Yes, sir, we're requesting a revision to this policy, to add additional guidance regarding professional courtesy transfers.
All right. Questions, comments, of this week's on anything on that revised board policy? If not, your recommendation, Mr. Russell.
Mr. President, I recommend the board to approve the revised board policy JBCDDD for transfer of students from one school attendance center to another.
Okay. Based on the superintendent's recommendation of approval, do we have a motion to that effect?
I make that motion.
Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Nay, the ayes have it, revised board policy JBCDD, transfer of students from one attendance center to another is approved. Thank you, Ms. Wilson, for all that. Next item of business, personnel, Mr. Alexander.
Yes, sir. In the personnel packet this morning, you have pages 1 through 4 recommendations. Pages 5 and 7 are personnel changes. Page 8 is our provisional list of those still awaiting licensures. 3 of the 7 have received after the deadline. Page 9 is a memo from Ms. Weeks, Assistant Superintendent, requesting approval to hire Mr. Teal as an adjunct college algebra instructor. He will teach one section of college algebra at Centerville High School, and his pay is on there, and installments of how they'll be made. Page 10 is request for additional pay from Ms. Ingram, our Director of Federal Programs. Ms. Butler will work as a tutor at Palmer Home for 75 hours, and her pay per hours on there beginning 117.20, ending 6/30/20. page 11 is request for additional pay from Ms. Weeks and Ms. Dolatry, who will serve as a dual credit adjunct instructor at Red Commerce High, Olive Branch High, Horn Lake High. She'll teach these sections with her rate mentioned at 3 sections, and that will begin 113 and end 515. Apologize for the 113. Of course, these classes may we have to begin again.
Based on Mr. Alexander's information, personnel, your recommendations.
Mr. President, I recommend the board to approve personnel as presented.
Based on the superintendent's recommendation for approval of personnel as presented. Do we have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Motion having been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second having been made, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Nay, ayes have it, personnel is approved as presented by Mr. Alexander. Next item of business on the agenda is residency appeal. Mr. Cox.
Yes, sir. We have one item to be discussed in executive session.
All right.
Also, I would like to thank Ms. Hawkins and Ms. Thomas for being here today. If y'all wait to the board, so they know who we're talking about. They're from our EL department also. I didn't point them out earlier, and I thought they were still here. So I guess y'all were here to support South Haven Intermediate today, their presentation, and they do a wonderful job of supporting our EL students. And I want to thank Ms. Strickland and her teachers for staying for the board member. Maybe we've never had a group that actually stayed for the board meeting, but I will say this, I think it's great that they were able to see, Ms. Strickland's been to board meetings, but the business of the board and all that goes into operating the school district. We appreciate our teachers for all of your hard work.
We do get a little wild sometimes.
Sometimes we start meeting in other places and we don't even tell them. Yeah, we're worried about that.
It's my job to keep you out of jail.
Yeah, right.
Well, when I turn this stage, that concludes the items on our agenda, and I do need a motion for consideration of closed session to determine whether the board should enter executive session for student matters, residency appeals, and contract issues.
I make a motion to consider going into executive session on student matters, the contract matter, and the residency.
Okay, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All right, Mr. Chase will come back and inform you as to whether the board will remain in, go into executive session.